Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you. My name's Emily Ann Ball, and I'm the Executive Director of Resilient Georgia. This meeting is special. We turned 2 this past year, and for those unfamiliar with Resilient Georgia or new to our group, we welcome you, and we would like for you to celebrate with us as we've reached over 700 engaged stakeholders over the past 2 years. This year is a very special year, one being that we finally got to celebrate the Olympics again, and also because athletes, so many of them, use their platforms to start talking about behavioral health and resiliency. So we're thrilled today to welcome Kenny Selmon and storyteller Chrishaunda Lee Perez as they continue this conversation and talk about overcoming hurdles and barriers and talking a little bit more about resiliency. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Thank you, Emily, for having us here. And congratulations on year 2.
Thank you.
It went by so fast.
Yes, it did.
We had a pandemic. We're in a pandemic. Makes everything move a little faster.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having us. And thank you, Kenny, for being here.
Of course.
And taking the time. I know you're a busy guy because after the Olympics, I hear that's when a lot of the work begins because now you're being pulled in one area or the next.
Absolutely.
To get going. I just want to go to the chase because I got all these notes written about you, and I'm trying to pride myself on not taking so many notes and reading them, but you have done so much. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember all of this. So let's start from the beginning. So my first question is, did you crawl?
Did I?
Did you crawl as a baby?
You know, I think so.
You think you, okay.
I crawl. I think
okay.
I did. I don't know, you got to answer.
I just had to ask that to start it off because I go,
I
you
definitely
crawled. So you didn't just born and then eventually just start running.
You know, the hurdles were not always there. They were not always there.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So you then sped through elementary school, and then you sped through middle school and got noticed, and then ended up at Pace Academy, and 100%. You are a 3-time All-American. You then are in high school running and winning all of these races, 400-meter dashes and things of that nature, and then you go to college, and you are killing it. You are winning the ACC twice. Unbelievable. You end up winning the World Cup in 2018, 400-yard hurdles. Just so impressive. And then you take this all the way to 2021 Olympics.
Yes.
How do you feel having done all that? Is it a blur? Fast man.
Super, super fast man. Yes, it is. Honestly, I think that, you know, my parents all the time, they're like, Kenny, you need to just, like, you know, I don't think you understand what you've done. You know, and how much you've done in this kind of time.
Absolutely.
And as an athlete, you don't have time to digest what you're doing and how much you've done because, you know, it's a part of the journey. Like, you know, I had my height set on the Olympics for a pretty long time, and I knew that.
How old when you first had a dream?
Gosh, that question is always tough to me because I loved everything. Like, I loved basketball. I loved football. I loved volleyball. I played lacrosse.
Wow.
There were so many things that I enjoyed, you know, in sport, but also, like, I loved, I loved the art side of things. I managed, I was like the stage manager for plays at my high school. Yeah.
Wow.
I loved everything.
Well, I know how highly intelligent you are. I didn't know you were also artistic. Because I'm like, he's a double threat. So here's a triple threat. Keep going.
Yeah. And so, but I enjoyed so many things that I wanted to be good at everything. But track provided the most promising path. And so I'd say about, you know, the end of high school, when I made my first USA team, I kind of realized that I have a potential in this. And I know that I at least want to reach the pinnacle of the sport in the best way that I can, and that, you know, is the Olympics. And so that's kind of, I would say, last year of high school is when I really decided to set my heights on the Olympics.
You're like, okay, I've done some international things at this point in my life. I've done some national. You were winning big things by that time. Yeah. And so, and I think that speaks to your level of professionalism even early, because so much of the time when you have raw talent, you do feel like you can do certain things, but that doesn't always mean that you can sort of ascend, because there's a lot of shaping and grooming that have to be done coupled with that raw talent.
Yes, 100%.
So you knew that I have to sort of sharpen myself even stronger before I can really feel like I can compete on that stage.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's, You know, because you're never ready until you're ready, and you also don't know when you're ready, but you know the things that it's going to take.
That's a quote.
Whether it's practice, whether it's falling in practice, falling in races, the journey shapes itself. You just kind of got to keep going through it.
So wise to be so young. My goodness, so good to know you. So going forward, this conversation is about mental health. And, as much as I've known your family and have gotten to know you, you all seem to be very balanced. But I can imagine that there has been quite a journey for you in the process of just ascending to this level. And, of course, Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles, they have made public that we need to take better care of our athletes.
Absolutely.
And this isn't, I don't believe, anything new. It's just something that they had not talked about.
Right.
And so thank the both of them for being so selfless and courageous
100%.
to speak out. Were there rumblings in the Olympic Village about this, and did you all talk about it on the low? How has that affected the whole sort of industry?
Yeah, Simone Biles was the biggest story. Her decisions that she was making while she was there, while we all were there, were kind of the biggest stories, obviously. And so everyone has their own opinion, own perspective, and thought process on why what she did was maybe correct, or why people felt that maybe they wouldn't have done it that way. But no one ever questioned her decision. No one like in the village, no one was ever like, gosh, like she should not have done that.
They respected her own personal choices.
They respected it because
that's great.
We all, as individuals, on these teams, I was one of 3 400 hurdlers selected to be on the team, and so that's awesome, and that's a lot of pressure. But Simone Biles was also, out of all of us, she was one, to represent the whole, she was the face of the team.
Sure.
And so that pressure, I can't even imagine, and no one can imagine what that was like. And so to do that, and she was also battling physical, health, like things were going wrong, like with her balance and things of that sort. So it wasn't like it was just mental. She had, things were combined. And so no one ever questioned her decision. It was definitely the talk, and people were definitely talking about it, but everyone had much respect for her as a woman, and then, we all get the athletes. So
that's right. And so you hope that when someone makes a huge declaration like that, it's going to sort of ripple effect through not just the industry, through the village, but also to the people who are supporting, the people who are tweeting and saying negative things about her because of the choices that she's made, and people can at least have some level of compassion for her. In this audience that we have for Resilient Georgia, there is a great amount of different people from different sectors. There's philanthropists, there's public health professionals and the like. And so what would you say, because you have to know that when someone sees you, especially in Atlanta, you're tangible. You're at arm's reach for somebody who is considering or looking up to. What would you say to people who are in the position to prevent, advocate, and actually make some headway for mental health support for athletes? What should they do for high schoolers who are coming in this space? Because it wasn't something that was talked about when you were in high school.
Yeah.
You just kind of had to suck it up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So what would you say to those people out here watching that they can do to help change the game?
Yeah. I think that you have to kind of understand that mental health goes hand in hand with physical health. And physical health is that's all we know. That's all it's been accepted for a long time within life and sport and society. And physical health is you got to keep your body in shape. Keep your body in shape, eat good, make sure you are sleeping, recovering, physical stuff. But mental health is also some say it's 50-50, some say it's less, whatever, but I think it goes hand in hand. I think it's 50-50 because
isn't it like mind, body, and soul?
Absolutely.
Isn't it the whole thing?
They've got to be connected.
Yes.
And so
Yep.
I think just as much as we do physical health and physical, exercise, you got to do mental exercise, and it's important to start that at a young age because at least now that it is an aspect. Because if you don't know that your mental has to be intact and all you are worried about is your physical, then now when your physical breaks,
That's right.
What are you falling back on?
That's right.
And if your mental is not strong, then, and if you also didn't even know your mental was an aspect of the whole, pie, now you're confused.
Yeah, because it's muscle memory. That's an aspect, that's physical, but I would imagine still you have to believe in yourself.
The confidence is everything. Confidence is everything.
Please talk about that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, And
now you sound like Muhammad Ali, because that's exactly who I think of when I think the confidence and how it affects how you perform.
Yes.
Please keep going.
Because if you don't believe in yourself, then like that's the start. Like if you think good, then you feel good, and if you feel good, then you perform good. You know, but if you but the start of it is how you think. And so if you don't believe that you can do it, or no one has ever told you that you can do it, or you've never seen someone who looks like you that can do it, so many things that kind of go together with the confidence, if they are not present, then it's like you're already starting on a bad foot.
Got it.
And so it's essential. It's essential to success, and also, you know, to have something to fall back on, even when success is not the end result.
That's true. Yeah. And you make me think about Michael Jordan. I just watched that incredible documentary this summer or last summer.
Unreal.
Time is
it's all together
escaping
now.
me. Oh, my God.
That was a long time ago,
but, you know, he had the flu. And I didn't know that was going on, but just, you know, and he was really, really sick, but it took this inner thing.
Right.
And they still won the championship.
Oh, yeah.
Through the flu.
Yeah.
I mean, so I go, there is something to be said about that. But so often we just sort of get caught up, the spectators get caught up in the physicality of it all.
Yeah.
We just go, oh, look at Kenny. He just,
yeah.
And you're thinking he's just this machine. But the machine has mechanics. There's cogs. There's 100%. Other elements. So when you do things like surmount the types of hurdles that you have done physically, you know, you're highly intelligent. You are such an upstanding, charismatic young man. You know, you have to know that you automatically become a role model. People are going to look up to you. Not just kids, but adults, your peers can say, wow, you're inspiring to me. Who inspired you? Who helped you to stay centered so that you can know that despite whatever, I can still do this?
Yeah. Whew. I've got a lot. You know, and I never know how to answer that question, just because I think there's so many different people that inspire me different ways.
The village.
A village. It's a village.
Sure.
Like there are people who have poured into me that have allowed me to even have the confidence that I have, but also the ability, the stage, the access to equipment, to people that have kind of poured into me that have allowed me to do that. I mean, but my parents are my biggest inspiration. I think that they are just incredible humans. And it's so funny, as you grow up, you get to like know your parents as individuals. Like it's like now, like when you're young, it's like that's mom,
they're
that's dad,
now.
and like I don't like they are not humans. Like they like mom, I need your help, dad. Like help me out. It's all like they're not real people.
Right.
But as you grow up, it's like gosh, like you did a lot for me. Like you did a lot for me, and I don't know how you even had the foresight to put me in the position that you put me into. And so you know. Growing up, you find role models along the way, but I will say as I've been able to, you know, take in knowledge, digest it, and kind of spit it back out, my parents have been just the most inspiring people in my life.
Well, I mean, I know they're incredibly proud because you really are an example of what happens when you're nurtured.
Yeah.
You're really an example of what happens when people believe in you. And you just continue to push along and inspire other kids who perhaps don't have the type of incredible parents that you have. They still know that they can do it because you've done it.
Yeah.
And the formulas aren't always exact. You know, sometimes a village is comprised of your neighbors and your peers even. But 100%. Whoever is around you, you know, pull that energy in, and you're a great example of that too. You're welcome. I wanted to ask you about COVID because, you know, 2021, that experience, you were training in a pandemic. And so, again, we're going back to mental health. And, you know, Resilient Georgia's whole mission is about mental health and helping people in whatever walks of life that they're in, just try to stay balanced so that they can be successful at whatever it is that they're doing. So now we're speaking about athleticism and all these young people who are looking up to you and the like, and Simone and Naomi and so many others. How did you handle the pandemic and training and still keeping yourself, as you mentioned earlier, confident and believing yourself that you can actually get to the Olympics?
Yeah, it was tough. I'll be honest. I mean, COVID really, and this, I think it's important for anyone to obviously realize that it affected everyone. You know, it was a global pandemic. It was not like no one was isolated in any part of this. But you can only speak to what you know. And so to give it full circle in track and field, you know, it's typical for an athlete to stay and train next to a college. And so because there's not like many like city teams. There's not like the Atlanta Sprinters, you know, like there's no like facilities for these athletes. So you typically find a college, find a system that works for you, and you have a relationship with the coach, and they decide to train you.
Where'd you train, if you don't mind me asking?
Georgia Tech.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Right at home. Got it. That's
of
right.
course. And so, you know, when COVID hit, everybody had protocols. Everybody had, you know, well, because like it used to be allowed to have, you know, athletes training alongside, like professional athletes training alongside the collegiates. That wasn't okay ananymore because now they're not getting tested. You know, we don't know who we're letting coming in, and so now I had to adjust because like for my routine was to go train Georgia Tech, you know, have fun, use the weight room, everything's cool, and then leave. Now I can't even use the facility.
Wow.
And so I got kicked off of 5 different tracks in Atlanta. All, I mean, you know,
that are outside.
That are outside.
Wow. We were on one. As a nation, as a world,
no one knew what to do.
Nobody knew what to do.
And I was like,
my gosh.
I would go to a track and be like, I'm alone. I'm alone. My coach is not even here. I don't know what you want from me.
Because no one wants to touch you because they don't want to get you sick. Right. They don't know if you're going to get them sick. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I mean, obviously, like no one at that stage, no one knew the dynamics of it, how it was. You know, no one knew the true transmission of it, and so that was, you know, that we'll leave that for that time. But it was definitely hard because I couldn't train where I needed to train.
Sure.
My coach, I didn't have access to my coach like I needed to, and there were so many things that were stacked against me from a logistical standpoint. Like I couldn't even lift anymore. Like I said, there were no tracks available, and so I had to decide like what do you want? You know, what do you want? Do you want to make this team? And if you want to make this team, then you know what it takes, and what it takes, there can be no holes in your training. You know, regardless of if
I was going to say, how did you fill the holes?
Yeah, I mean, regardless of the fact that you couldn't find a track. You had to, you know, if you couldn't find a track, then maybe you're on a road. Maybe you're on a road and you're running hills. Maybe you find a treadmill, you do a workout on a treadmill. Maybe you find a bike and do a bike workout. So like something to feel that fitness until we can get things kind of aligned. And so, you know, that drug on, I mean, up until the Olympics pretty much.
My next question.
Yeah.
So you really almost ran into it because you were doing like, I mean, again, I keep making these references, but like Rocky, that film, you know, when he had that, the one where he doesn't get all the sort of the high-tech training and he's in the middle of Russia or something. Yeah. So you're like in extreme situations and just not part of your normal process.
And it feels that way. I mean, when you're running, like, I mean, you can lock into any kind of zone, whether it's Rocky, you know, Creed, anything you can lock into. And it's like, I'm running up this hill, you know, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, I'm kind of risking my life, you know, and my you know, relationships here. But, like, I've got a goal, and I know that I need to do this. Yeah.
And so every day, did you just get stronger? Or were there days where you felt a little discouraged? And if you did, because you're human, because you still got there. So, you know, this is all hindsight now. What did you do to get past those moments?
Yeah.
Because everyone's in isolation.
100%. I think that the balance or like what I've been able to find balance is within the sport is that it's work hard, play hard. You've got to be able to have fun, and also you got to be able to work hard but they are also like separate. Excuse me. They're separate things. And so you've got to give both of them their own individual attention. So when you step onto the track or the pavement, you've got to make sure that workout on that day was the best workout you've ever done. And if it's not, then figure out why. Okay. And why was it not good? Like, did I sleep well? Like, did I eat incorrectly? What was wrong with that workout?
It's that disciplined.
Oh, it has to be because you know, if you don't know why your body's reacting how it's reacting, then on the day of competition, you're like, you know, I don't even know what to do to make my body feel good. Like, I don't know what I should be eating the night before.
Right. You have to have all the answers.
It's got to be all together. Yeah. And so, you know, that's the aspect of the sport itself. But when you are that focused and that honed in on one thing, you need an outlet. You need something just that you enjoy doing, and it could be anything. Like it could be, you know, eating, going out to eat. It can be if you have a pet, playing with your dog. It can be conversations. It can be video games, obviously.
Something to just calm
something
it down.
that you want to do, because there are a lot of workouts you don't want to do. And so I think, the way to balance those kind of setbacks and those, the turbulence within the COVID training was just make sure you're having fun in any way that you can. And, there's a lot that requires that.
Yeah, the narrative just looked different, but the end result will still be the same, because the end result was still the same.
Yeah.
But I can imagine, for you it was, but I can imagine there were some athletes who had a challenge, and you probably know some who could not get through that muck that was presented and that nobody was responsible for.
Yeah.
And it did affect their ultimate, outcome of them being able to participate in sort of thing. So, so because you have been sort of a beacon for that at this level, it's so important to hear that storytelling and to just lament on, what was it that you did to help yourself stay stable. Now, it's isolation time. Did you see your family?
So, you know how I feel about my parents. So, and they live down the street.
Yes.
I didn't see them for like the majority of COVID. I mean, it's still real now, but like the majority of the heat of it, like I just didn't, because I was not interested in getting them sick. And I also did not know, I knew that
you could get them sick. Nobody knew.
No one knew. And so I was like, I don't need to see y'all. I want to see you, and I'll call you, I'll FaceTime you, do whatever. But I don't know how I can live with myself knowing that 'cause I would see some of my friends, some of my younger friends, we would kind of hang out at a distance. We were trying to follow all the protocols, but we were still hanging out because that was important to us.
Sure. That's what helps you to get the balance.
Exactly, that's the balance.
Yeah.
And so I did that, but I was like, hopefully, studies showing that the majority of us will be okay, but I will not be risking my parents. I didn't see them much at all. Very much, kept them out of the picture.
Well, that was out of love and respect, and so many people, even non-athletes, did that just because if you're hitting a certain age bracket, you don't know.
Right.
So there were a number of people in my family also I can relate completely.
Yeah.
So that's leads me to the idea and the questioning of stresses. And Resilient Georgia, often speaks to good stress and bad stress.
Yep.
And then the bad stress, of course, are the things that go on and on and on, and they just don't stop, and they affect your whole life, and it takes you to one negative stage to the next. And then the good stresses are those things that are just quick, that kind of maybe put you on your feet a little bit and keep you moving. How do you balance the good and the bad stresses as an athlete? How does that sort of play into your life? Because you can't have this thing linked. Again, it goes back to the confidence. You can't have this lingering negative moment, even if you had a bad training day.
Right.
Are you connected to something spiritually, or is there a good friend that you speak to? I'm all about finding out the answers so that people can hear it and say, well, maybe I'll adopt that too.
Yeah. Well, there's so many different ways to kind of figure out what's stressing you out and what these stresses are. There are good stresses and bad stresses, and I think the main difference is some wake you up. Some are you need this. So for example, in track it's nervous. You're nervous. You're going into a workout. Maybe it's a workout. Maybe it's a meet, and you're like, gosh, I am nervous right now. I don't know what's going to happen. It's all my fault. Whatever happens, because it's an individual sport. It's these stresses are real, but they're good. They get you fired up. They get those reactions, the fight and flight, and so those are good. The bad ones, within track itself, but also sport in general, I think a lot of the bad lingering stresses in track, but also sport, come from a multitude of things. It could be confidence, but a lot of them are injury, and because if your body is not physically capable of going, in track and field, if you're not 100%, you are essentially worthless, because if you
that's a word.
It's we're going me to that line, fastest person. If I can give 100% and you're giving 100%, one will never know that what happens, but also I need my 100% to get there.
That's right.
And so as an athlete, if you are injured, now you don't your confidence has a real ceiling, because it's I I can't go faster than this, or I will like tear my hamstring. You know, like I can't.
So you can go faster than what you go sometimes, but you just won't do it.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, there's so many.
So that's like raw talent because they just go and go and go, but you know to have the discipline.
Right, 100%.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so it's those stressors that are the bad stressors. I think it's important to figure out what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, is it like, do you believe that you are supposed to be in this sport? Is this the correct avenue for you? Maybe you want to be somewhere else. Are you injured? Are you hurt, or are you injured? Like, is something bothering you, or like physically, can you not proceed past this, like, this nuisance in your leg or whatever it is?
Has anything outside of the physical, maybe something that somebody may have said to criticize you? Because you're highly celebrated, but then I'm sure there are detractors just
oh my gosh.
because.
Yes.
And have they ever been able to penetrate? Have you ever lost a race because of it? Has it ever affected your ability to ascend
yes.
because of it?
I mean,
and how did you get past it? Because I'm assuming this is hindsight. This
right.
is back in the day.
Right.
But now you're much, you're more
right.
resilient. You
right.
have, for using a better word, you have more wisdom,
yeah.
more life experience.
100%.
Tell me about it.
It's all relevant, and it's all relative. So, people in track and field, there's two different types of fasts. Mm-hmm. There's like people who are like pure raw sprinters, 100 guys, 60-meter guys, 200 is kind of the cap of that. And there's also some people who are just strength-based runners, and who have like a lot of strength. Like relative to the general population, we are faster. Okay. But like when you put us in a pot with all the fast track athletes, there's a split. Mm-hmm. People have raw speed. So we are just stronger and can carry a pace for a longer time. Mm-hmm. I struggled with that for a long time because I was not a raw speed guy. Like I'm not like Usain Bolt or Justin Gatlin, people who have just that raw fast twitch. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that, and so internally within the sport, people will call you out on that. Like, you're not fast. Like you're not fast. You don't have this. You don't have this. And so because you don't have this raw speed, you'll never be able to run this time because it's never been done before. It's never been. No one has ever not run 19 seconds in a 200 and then also run 48 low and a 400 hurdles. So like there's things there that people will tell you that have never been done, and then
mind you audience, we're dealing with a different level of speed. So me and my 12-minute mile runs, just trying to get there, and you say, I finished. Yes. He's talking about something completely different. It's a whole nother stratosphere of speed.
Within the sport, it's crazy. And so to bring it full circle, it's just that, someone told me that, I didn't have the correct speed to be able to run fast. And so in that moment, I had to realize that, maybe they have a point. Like maybe what they're saying is true to some degree, but like I know that when I'm training, I'm still hitting the right times. I'm still hitting my marks. I'm still running faster than everyone. Like, what is it that I like? Because I believe them in a sense. Like, there are some realities you have to face in life. Like, we're all not amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, there are realities. And so when I realized that, I don't have the raw speed, but I've got an incredible amount of strength, and my strength is going to compensate for my lack of speed. Mm-hmm. And so when I realized that, I was like, what held me down for what kind of made me feel like I was, diminishing my value, maybe was true for that person, and where they were projecting it out to me. But in reality, sure, I didn't have all that, but I have a lot of this. And like when I combine that, that's why I can run as fast as I can run, because I'm stronger in ways that they couldn't even imagine. They didn't even know was possible, that I had to learn and tap into to kind of like really fuel and get to that moment. So it's all about, people will try and penetrate you. They'll try and say things, but you got to figure out, like, you got to know you.
That's right.
You got to know what you do well.
That's right.
And if you do it well, then like, put it on Front Street and let them react.
I love that. Put it on Front Street. Let it react. That's a tweetable moment.
Yeah.
Well, what you have shown is that you're resilient, because that strength coupled with that speed that may not be comparable to the next guy who's fast.
Right.
You know, you can get the wind blown out of you, but you can't get off you can't get back up again because you don't have the strength, the momentum.
100%.
I would always want to have your combination if I had to choose. So good grief.
Well, I appreciate it.
You know, I'm so just in awe listening to your story and just the way that you're able to articulate it. I had never thought about athleticism that specifically. It really is no different than going to law school or to go to med school. I mean, the level of discipline and, you know, you have to not, you know, I have friends who were in med school that they couldn't party too hard. They couldn't have too much to drink because the next morning they've got this exam.
Right.
And for you, your exam may be on the field,
100%.
but it's the same level of discipline. But then at the same time, you want to have that balance. Because I have friends who are in med school who also said, you know, but we had to have a good time.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Which is true.
Because I don't want to spend my life focusing on chemistry and biology.
No.
And so, okay, so when you're thinking about that and the stresses and the bad stresses and what is happening, I'm leading into the $1 million question here because there are lots of, not a lot, let me just say, change that. There's a number of black men who, you know, look like you, who have gotten to levels of prestige with speed, with athleticism. So you're not unique in that space, but you are unique in the space of the whole because you were 1 out of 3 in the world. And I can only imagine that your experience, because of how you look, being unique in that space, your experience had to be unique.
Yeah.
And so people rarely speak about that because I don't know why people don't speak about it. But I just wanted to know from your perspective, what are some of the differences and how did you handle some of those challenges to still know that regardless of how you look, you measure up? Was there moments where people kind of felt, you know, was that stuff going on? Yeah.
And when you said, are you saying compared to other black men? Or compared to
the whole industry. So you being unique in the space of, I mean, I'm thinking Michael Johnson, who ran, and I remember meeting him and just being like, he's in the sea of all these white men, and he was a lone stir in that space.
Right.
How do you, you know, circumvent that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You know, as a black man, there are a lot of challenges we go through on a daily basis in general. And so you kind of understand how you're going to be looked at, and you understand how, you know, people are going to perceive you. But it's about how you respond, but it's also about like what you know. And so just to speak to black men in general, like for a lot of black men, it's, you know, sport is our way out. You know, it's our way to get, you know, from wherever community we are in. It's how you get out of it, and like it's an easy, not an easy because by no means is it easy, but it's the first one that is presented to you as a young child, and so it's acceptable, right away. Yes,
more
and
so than, you know, you can be coming out the womb speaking 10 languages, and they'll say, someone will say, how can he dribble a ball?
Can you catch a ball? Right. Can you catch a ball?
But did you see the child is 5 languages? No, but can he dribble a ball? Because it's just not in the forefront to consider.
And so, and I think a lot of times, like, there's so much pressure that is put on the sport itself that, you know, makes it hard when it doesn't work out. But I'll say that for me, my parents and my village and my community, you know, there was pressure put on my sport, but I also was exposed to so many different things that allowed me to take a little bit of pressure off the sport. You know, whether I could, you know, because I you know, academics are real. You know, Pace Academy is a very, very, you know, rigorous school.
That is right.
And you know, the environment, the people, everything is a lot. But I was able to dive into that and like see different opportunities, whether it be in business, whether it be in the arts, whether it be in, you know, in media, in anything of that sort. More was presented to me at an early age. So I was able to see that, look, if this doesn't work out, there's other avenues that I can go down. And so having the freedom to make decisions in my life allowed me to, you know, choose what I wanted to do, number one. But also, if that didn't work out, it wasn't the end of the world for me. And so the biggest difference that I see within myself and other athletes, whether black or white, is that the sport's not the end-all be-all for me. You know, like I feel as though my personality that has been developed, my charisma that has been tested, you know, and my you know,
your character,
my character
Absolutely.
that has been, you know, constructed by so many people that has like poured into me, that can be used on so many different stages than just the sport.
Right. That is exactly
and
right.
so it's been like I am just so thankful for that, because now, you know, as a black man who has achieved a crazy height within his sport, can now take that into something else.
That's right. Because this is just I'm looking at you. You are 10 years old to me. You are young, and this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And this is, to me, I mean, what an accomplishment. You're so incredibly impressive to have achieved all these things at this young age. I mean, my goodness, I can only imagine. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to witness and be in the crowd, and seeing you, you know, accept some type of lifetime achievement because of all the things you will have accomplished. But I think that what you have and what you are trying to lament to the audience here is having a strong value of self.
Yeah.
So regardless of what your color is, if you're a black man, if you're an Asian man, if you're whatever box you check on the census form, that matters because culture matters.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're a human being.
Right.
Who has potential and who is worthy, and you know that. And 100%. I think that is what separates, and that's what helps anybody, regardless of what they look like.
Right.
And so therein lies to the wealth of the mental health.
Yep.
So here's another reference for you, because I was hearing about, you know, how the gentleman who landed on the moon, and they were being asked questions, you know, at the time, what was it like and how did you feel? And they couldn't really give any stories because they were so in the moment. They were like with their paperwork, and they had to like check boxes and things. So they didn't really have an opportunity to go, wow.
Yeah.
You know, as an Olympian and as a fast Olympian, did you have an opportunity to take any of this in the moment? Because hindsight's great, but did you have a moment to just stop, or is it detrimental to stop?
In the moment, no, because it was supposed to happen. You know, like it was like this was just the step that like I prepared so much for that moment that when it was there, I was present in the moment, but not the weight of the moment. It was more so how to like work through and like logistically and physically, and the execution was like what I was focused on. Like how to go out there, you know, Kenny, you train your whole life for this. Are you gonna eat the same foods? Make sure you go out there, like don't get all, you know, caught up in the whole grand scheme of things. Like, you know, don't get, you know, it's the Olympics, or like don't go out there taking pictures, like like you have a mission to do. You went out there for a reason. And so, you know, you are taught that. And when you are taught to how to execute a mission, that's what you do. And so when I was out there, it was very much business. It was Kenny, go out, like, look, you have to go out there and, you know, take it all in, go out there maybe a day early and go see the track or whatever. But that's it as far as the
rah-rah part of it all.
The rah-rah part, because you can't have that, because if you get caught up in that,
it can be detrimental.
Because then you're there for that.
Yep. And now it's all about ego.
And you're accepting that.
Yep.
And you're also like, you feel accomplished with that. Because like you're like, we didn't go there just to be a
superstar, if you will.
Right.
Celebrity, if you will.
Exactly. Or even a participant. Like you go there to do well. And so in the moment, it was tough to take it all in, which I think is typical for most athletes.
Sure.
But you know, definitely in hindsight, you realize like, wow. Wow.
What was your childhood like? I'm interested to know, like, what was your upbringing like with your parents? You know, you have a brother?
Yep.
Yes, and it's just the two of you?
Yep.
Okay. Older, younger?
Older.
Okay. So how many years older?
3 years.
Okay, so you had a little bit of wisdom ahead.
Yep.
So what was it like being raised by your parents here in Atlanta? Were they strict parents? Were they sort of, lenient parents? Tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Yeah, it's so funny. My mom's watching; she's gonna laugh at this, but we always, like, my brother, my dad, and I like joke with her because she doesn't realize how hard she was on us. Like she doesn't realize that she, I don't know if I would ever classify. I mean, she was strict in a lot of ways. So was my dad. My dad was different. Like my dad was more so like, you know, the sport side of things, and like just like the care, and you can go like he's a little more lenient in certain aspects. With my mom, she was strict, and and it's funny because there's so many different ways in which she was strict, but she also is why we are so disciplined.
I was going to say, she knew who she was raising.
She knew who she was raising.
That's right.
And she had the foresight that, because without that, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Absolutely.
And who I'm becoming. Because she is, what she's done, and but my dad, to my family, my parents, they were strict, but they were also the most understanding, people. They didn't send me to school, Kenny, if you don't come back here with an A, you're in trouble. It was never that. It was, Kenny, first of all, you're not going to get an A on everything. So understand that first. So one,
love that.
They allowed me to fail.
Love that.
They allowed me to fail, which is huge. Because if you can't fail and you don't know,
still feel loved when you fail.
And still feel loved when you fail.
Holy moly.
Because there's
we love you, Mom.
And
Dad.
Yeah, no, literally both of them. My dad too. In sport, my dad would, take us to, he would find the best coaches in Atlanta for anything, whether it's basketball, track, football. He was finding the best coaches and would put his money where it was. If it cost money, he was going to pay it because he knew that we needed the best coaches to give us a chance. But with the best coaches, we weren't the best athletes coming out the gate. And so we were thrown into the fire, and we weren't we weren't getting playing time. There were certain things that we just couldn't do. We were not always the marquee athletes. But he put us in that to show us,
to give you that shot.
See, first of all, this is what it looks like. This is how it looks like.
Wow.
And then second of all, if you want it, then this is the avenue to do it. And so they allowed me to fail, which I think is the biggest thing that I've been able to learn and fail and still be loved.
Yep.
And I think that's everything. And
that is the biggest gift, I think, that you can have, because coming back from failure is really how you build the character.
Yeah.
But if you feel like nobody's going to like you if you don't do well, then you can't build the character because you don't have the the wherewithal and all that sort of thing, the confidence. So you were able to fail and then come back and that sort of thing and try all these different things.
Yep. Yep. And they also from a people standpoint and a society standpoint, they put me, in incredible, diverse environments that allowed me to just see the world differently. I went, for example, I went to public school for a lot of my life, which was predominantly black, and obviously that was kind of how I brought up. And then up until the 6th grade, I went to Pace Academy, which is predominantly white school, and so kind of driving in both of those cars, through athletics and through sport and through track and field, I kind of was surrounded by, my culture and people that looked like me. But when I went to my high school, or my middle school, high school, people didn't look like me. But I still also felt love. And I still felt that acceptance. And I also was able to see a look into an entirely different socioeconomic, group of people than people that I know. And so driving in both of those cars on a daily basis, gave me perspective that I think is invaluable. I think it's allowed me to, love people and give people a chance and trust people that I think a lot of people, don't have that perspective to establish relationships beyond people that look like them, for a lot of different reasons, which and most are valid. But my parents, putting me in situations that just allowed me to meet people, know people, love people, just brilliant.
And trust that you would be okay.
And be okay.
How does your big brother feel about all this success for you? Because I know he's he is in his own right an athlete and is doing quite well. How does he feel about his baby brother?
Yeah, he loves me.
That means a lot.
He's awesome. He's awesome. He is
big champion.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm one of my biggest supporters. He also as we've grown up, we've become best friends as well. And that's why, because we did not like each other when we were younger. We were not
That's probably par for the course.
Yeah, it was not all kumbaya with us. And it's funny, he just gave he just got married and loved his wife. And at his, I was his best man. I gave a speech. Oh. Yeah, and I got super emotional in the speech because, he could have just as easily not supported me or been envious.
Sure. Sibling rivalry is very real.
Anything to not support me. And the fact that he didn't, allowed me to just, because Billy was also an athlete, and he made a lot of mistakes growing up, and I saw all the mistakes. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, And so he made my life 10,000 times easier than, what it could have been. And so just unreal support. He's an incredible human. And yeah.
Okay, so what is the best piece of advice that you've received from one person in your village?
I think back to my favorite quote, and I'm going to misquote it, I think.
It's okay.
But it's God grant me the serenity to
serenity
to know the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That is exactly right.
I think that is so important in life because.
Who told you that?
And my dad told me that, he didn't tell me that quote directly, but he was always preaching that life isn't fair, and you have to know what you can't change and what you cannot, and what you can't do. So that quote came later, but those are values that he taught me, and not for limitation's sake, but for acceptance sake. For acceptance sake, for your mental.
That is exactly right.
Because there are things in life that are going to happen that you have no control over.
That's right. Some people take themselves to the wall trying to change something that is really, for them, impossible to change.
It's impossible for you to change.
Yeah.
And the ability to know that is everything.
It's everything.
It's everything.
So that you can move on and try something different.
Right.
That you can't, and then you go, oh my God, I've been trying to dig this hole and I couldn't, and I've learned I can dig it over there.
Right. Exactly. And it might be better over there.
Cement over this whole time.
What am I still doing over here?
Why am I still doing over here?
When I can't change this.
That's right.
And so that's
great.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I live my life. Because if you can't change it, then you need to figure out something else to do. Because at the end of the day, like I said, things will happen that will just knock you off your feet.
Yep.
And if you can't understand that that really, it didn't have anything to do with you. Like what happened, maybe surely it's affecting you, but it didn't have anything to do with you. And so you have to be able to move on, and things that you can change them if you can.
Yeah, and it may be to your benefit. Most of the time it is, if you can have the wisdom to know the difference.
100%.
Okay, so here's my last question. I think this is my last question. And it's an ego question.
Yeah.
How cool is it to be an Olympian? I just had to ask people. How cool is it to be an Olympian? You are an Olympian. That is that's now I get to do that because it's the whole interview is very very cerebral. Now I get to go to this. How cool is it to be?
Yes. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome because it, it's the pinnacle of sport. And it is kind of whether you're a basketball player, soccer player, anything, those stages may be more public. But the heights of the eliteness in a sport is the Olympics. And so to have that validation and just my personal confidence and self is awesome. So that part is just brilliant. But I know that I've worked for it, and I know that I've put in. I know the time and the hours and the sweat, the tears, the decisions that I've made to get to that point. Because it hadn't been easy.
Do people train? This sounds very ignorant, and I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
Do people train for the Olympics and then they try to get in and they don't cut the mustard, or do they already know they're in it and then they begin to train because they already know they have a place?
So it depends on the sport, the actual sport. Because some teams actually don't even have a trials, and they select their members based off of experience, ranking, all things of that sort. Track and field is the hardest. I mean, first of all, the USA team on any sport is the hardest team to make because our depth is incredible in athletes.
Absolutely.
Track and field is even harder because what you've done prior does not matter.
Wow.
So you have on that day, and the rules are changing slightly where they're having this new ranking system that has a slight effect, but it's at the end of the day, if you are elite, you probably have surpassed the ranking system anyway. But my point being, at the trials, no matter what you did, no matter if you came in number 1, came in number 2, number 3.
In the trials.
In the world. So if you come into the meet as number 1, you do not have a shoe-in spot. Like if you run the fastest time that year for your event, it does not matter.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. So like, so on that day,
Whoa.
On that day, you have to run 3 rounds. Or not on that day, but in the meet, you have to run 3 rounds. And so you have to pass the first round, pass the second round, and in the third round, you still have to be top 3 in the final. And so you don't know how that's going to turn out 4 years ago, or 4 years before. And so you're training knowing that it could not work out. Wow. Like you're sacrificing knowing that maybe what I'm doing is like wrong. Which is why you need a good coach. You need knowledge, you need experience.
There's a whole formula.
It's a whole formula.
Yeah.
But yes, to answer your direct question, you don't know if you're going to make the team. Which is, and like one of my best friends' dad, he told me he was like, and one of the most profound things that someone texted me. He said that, Kenny, we've always seen you run. Mm-hmm. We've always seen you. We always knew you were fast, whatever. But I didn't understand how so much had to go right, and you had to be so sharp for it to work out. Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, like even if you train and you were in the best shape, if you get out there, you're eating wrong, you catch a virus, you pull your hamstring, you slept wrong.
Everything has to be precise.
You've got to be on it. And so that starts, when you start training. But as you're training, you have no idea how it's going to pan out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's major, because then that just means that you really have to keep this up here intact the whole way through, because you could easily get discouraged, where you talked about on Channel 11 Alive, where people have dreams, but then the dreams go away if they get discouraged. Yep. And you have had those ups and downs, but you still stay focused. I mean, I believe that being an athlete to any capacity is a faith-driven thing. Absolutely. You have to believe in yourself. You have to, there is no guarantee. Anything can happen. You can trip and fall, but you're still going to keep going you're going to try for it, even if in the end this is what happens. Yeah. But for some reason, I'm learning from you that track and field is probably faith-driven in a whole different way. It's like a whole different kind of dynamic of having faith.
Yeah, I mean, faith is, it's believing that it's going to work out and believing in the unknown. Mm-hmm. And that is what it is. I mean, and also track is, it's like that. Like the race, it's not a team sport. Mm-hmm. It's not, there's not quarters, there's not rounds. When the gun goes off, you've got to be ready.
That's it.
And if you're not ready, then to make it dramatic, those last 4 years you've been training, or even 1 year prior, that last year can be essentially, not worthless, but for that goal, worthless,
Well,
track is different.
I would never put your name and the word worthless in the same sentence. You are definitely worth it, and again, just a phenomenal human being. And again, to be so young, I just marvel at the possibilities of what will happen. I'm going, you're an Olympian now. Where do you go from here? There's so many things that you can do.
Well, I appreciate that.
Because there's so many facets to being a human being, not just being an athlete, which you are phenomenal at that, yet you have other traits and talents that are just going to be developed as a result of those experiences as an Olympian, and you just keep going along and all those things. So now I'm going to twist the questioning, the line of questioning. Yeah. There are people out in the audience that have sent questions in.
Yes. Cool.
Fans of yours that just want to know some things that they, if they saw you on the street, or if they were sitting next to you on the train, they'd have to ask you things like, what are your favorite things to do? What are your hobbies?
So I've classified this as a hobby because it is. But I love going out to eat.
Okay.
Like, I love a good
I love food too.
I love a good restaurant.
Yes,
I like to and like my mom, she's like, Kenny, we don't always have to go to like the nicest restaurant. Or like my friends say this, like, Kenny, like, why are you? They're like, you want to go eat? I'm like, yeah, we're going to Capitol Grill. I'm like, yeah. I love eating, and I love the experience of it. And I love the conversation. Like, food's the centerpiece, but I love like what it brings out in people. So if you want me to, like, if people want to hang out, like do something, I'm always like, let's just go eat. We'll go eat.
I got it. Yeah. So I want to hang out with the young people. I go, let's call Kenny and let's get some food.
We'll go get some food.
Do you watch what you eat?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think that it's essential in certain times in your training. Like, in fall training when you're kind of it's just a grind. Like you're running mileage, running hills. Your food matters, but you're going to eat a lot. You eat a lot of food because you're burning so many calories. You're going to intake so many more calories, and so it's less important. Not less important. It's still very, like I'm not eating fried. I don't eat fried foods. Like I don't eat. I rarely eat. I don't eat fast food. I also don't drink soda. Like I don't like water is what I drink, and so a lot of like just standards that I have. But
not all athletes are that disciplined.
No,
because they're doing some special food department and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, no, I'm good. But that's why you're an Olympian.
Trying to get it done.
That's how you get it done. Okay. Someone wants to know, have you ever met Simone Biles, the face of the Olympics, as you just mentioned?
That is the question. So I did not meet her directly.
Okay.
But the USA...
You didn't get no selfies at the Olympics?
I know.
You're like, no, because I remember you just told me you're not there for that. You're there to be focused. I got it.
It's real because you also don't want to be... I mean, like, some people are star-striking. Like, you'll be like, oh, my gosh. Like, whoa, that's like Simone Biles right there. And she's one of those people. But in the USA Tower, like where we all stayed, like it was all the teams. Like track team, gymnasts, swimming, diving, like all that was right there. And so we would see all the athletes. And so I did walk past her.
So how tall is she?
She is so small.
She's tiny, isn't she?
She's tiny.
She's like a...
I mean, she's tiny, and
Wow.
you don't understand it until you see it. Like she's small. Like,
she's such a powerhouse, but just this little bitty
the presence that she demands is not anything compared like her size. I'm like, you are like literally like you're like this big.
Wow.
But she's awesome. She was nice. I mean, I had friends who got selfies with her, and so like she was very nice.
Yeah, she's a giant in my book.
Yeah,
she's a giant. My goodness. Okay, and so I think I asked you who your hero is, or I don't know. Did I ask you about your hero? I asked you who influenced you. Do you have a singular hero?
Besides my parents?
Yes.
Like Barack Obama.
Because?
I just think that, I'm reading his book now, and I think that...
Which one?
His latest one.
Okay.
I'm thinking of the name of it, but audiobook would do that to you.
Lots of pages.
It's massive. It's massive.
It's epic.
I think his optimism is like what I see the most in myself. Like he still believes in like union and in a perfect world, and he believes that like we all can meet and we all can like, exist together and coexist. Black, white, anything.
It's true.
Gay, straight,
it's true.
everything. Like he has a vision that we are all one, and
because it's true.
Because it's true.
I'm like, and whoever doesn't believe that, I don't know where you're...
Because it's true.
It's true. It's true.
It's true. And
we're so much more alike than we're different.
Oh my gosh. And I cross so many people who just don't even care to like make amend or like just don't even care to understand other people. I'm like...
Or find the solution. Yeah.
Or find the
just
solution.
Just want to stay on the problem.
Yeah.
And that affects mental health.
Oh my gosh.
Lifting yourself from all of that negativity clears your sense of mental health.
It clears it
almost instantly when you just surrender and all that stuff. So yeah.
And he is, and also how he's the president of America, like how he carried himself as a black man in this world. It's just inspiring to me, and how he speaks, how he is. I have a poster of him in my room. Oh, he's a beast.
How old are you?
I think I'm 25.
And you have a poster of that is fantastic. That is fantastic.
Awesome. He's awesome.
Well, you know what? You have something in common. You both ascended to the heights of what you wanted to do. So I think that you are almost peers in that sense.
Yeah. Well, somebody tell him that I need to meet him. Anybody out there?
Anybody out there? You got an Olympian. I don't think that'll be hard to make that happen.
I need a dinner with Barack Obama. I would be. I literally don't know what I would do. Yeah, he's a beast.
He's a beast.
He's a beast.
He's a good beast.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody wanted to know what is your, and I agree with you. I agree with that.
Yes.
What does your average training day look like? Now you talked about what happened in the COVID experience and how but when you're on your A game and you have all the things that you need and want, what does that day look like?
Yeah, so it's interesting actually. Like some people think that the days are like super long. They're not long. They're just very focused. Like in the morning, depending on what we're training, it could be like, I'll wake up at, 9 a.m., which is not bad. Like
it's not bad.
Not bad. I wake up, I'll eat, maybe 2 eggs or oatmeal or something very light before practice, and I'll go to practice at 10.
Okay.
And then we'll, the warm up for track and field takes an hour, so we'll warm up from like 10 to 11, and then it's funny, the workout, like in total, is probably like 6 minutes. Like when I'm actually on the clock, It's like when you're running fast, and so like it's like if you're doing like 200s, you're running for like 23 seconds, 24 seconds.
Yeah.
And so, but you're doing like maybe 10 times or whatever, and so the actual work is
the build up.
The build up is everything, but the work is short.
Because why? You can't do more than 6 minutes, because if you do more, then now you're putting too much pressure on your body.
Depends on the workout. It depends on the athlete. Depends on the discipline. So like with a 100 runner, actually they have longer workouts because they have to do blocks. So like coming out of the blocks, they have to like work on their technique, their drive phase. How they accelerate. Their all these different aspects of the race. And so do we. But it's just funny to think about like the work in itself. Like the hardest part is not even longer than like the easy part. 'Cause the easy part is warming up and like cooling down. But so we'll do the work, and then after that we'll go lift. We'll have protein shakes in between to make sure that we're refilling our body properly to expedite the recovery.
Okay.
And then we go work out in the gym, do some lifting stuff, and then we'll eat after that. And you have a lot of downtime. By most days, I was out of the realm of the track by like 2 o'clock.
Wow, that's a great day.
It's a great day.
It seems so daunting.
Yeah.
Training to be an Olympian. Yeah. I'm going, don't even tell me what you're doing. Are you having to get on the...
It's super easy.
You just think, oh my God, you're on the top of a volcano. You got to run down Kilimanjaro. You got to do all these things, because to be an Olympian, but there's still a level of rigor that the average person is not going to do.
Well, don't get me wrong. The work is hard. Like it's like, it may be short in a sense, but that work is the difference.
Got it.
Like what you can do in that zone, whether it be hills, whether it be sprints, whether it be over distance, anything, like how well you take on that work and the deposit you make while doing that work is what matters. So
also I wanted to ask, so since you sprint, do you ever run long distance to train?
Yeah. Kind of. Every coach has a different philosophy on that.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, my old coaches were not big on mileage. They, you normally, if you're
anything could happen on mile 6. They're like, no, don't go too far.
Well, trust me, we're not doing 6 miles. We're not doing that.
Wow.
Oh God, no. I mean, most sprinters, and like it's so funny. So many people ask, they're like, how many miles do you run a week or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't run miles. I don't do. I don't do.
That's so. Let me tell you something. So I run marathons.
Sure.
I run a couple. I run a bunch of halves. And so for us, it is about distance. But I tell you, it's a 13-minute mile after it's all said and done. I started with 10, and then the tapers off the slower you get.
Yes.
But the distance means a lot for that. But for you, that is such an aha for me.
Yeah, because like that. It's so, like, what we are doing is so specific to our event that, like, me running miles will actually, like hurt me more than
from you.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm teaching my body how to go a little bit slower than the pace that I need to run when I'm actually running fast.
Yeah, you're supposed to run fast. You can't. No one's running that fast for 20 miles or for 10 miles or for 2 miles.
Exactly.
Got it.
And
okay.
so it's a bit different in the approach there.
I think people are getting fired up from listening to you because here they keep coming in.
I'll do a little run.
Okay, here's another one for Kenny. That's a good one. I didn't want to ask that question because we were so going up, but it's something that should be asked.
Yeah.
What is the most difficult part in your experience that made you almost want to give up?
Oh. I mean, there's a lot.
Think back to that one time where you're like, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah. It's a hard question to answer because like track, and like I'm going to speak obviously to track specifically. The sport is very hard. It's hard to, because the point of the sport is to push your body to its limit. To where you are like going to throw up, and then like you have to go through that,
and you have to get past that and keep going.
Because if you tell someone go run to that wall as fast as you can, they do it. They come back and like, okay, but you have to, like, I need you to be faster than that. So now that person gave you everything they have. So now as a coach, you have to break down what that was. It's like break down those muscle fibers, break down what they thought they did, and push through so that now we rebuild those muscles faster than what that just was. But to break the muscle down, you literally have to go to zero. And so you have to exhaust your body. And it's like, so the sport is hard itself. But for me, something that like really got with me, and it's going to speak to like just my how I was raised, but the payout in the sport is not what it should be. Track and field, there's not too much money in the sport.
Huh. So where does it come from? Endorsements and things like that?
Sponsorship. I was sponsored, and like, I made fine money, and financial was never a problem. So I'm not going to act like that was, what was it for me. But I did feel as though I wanted to be used. Like, I felt like I wasn't getting what I was putting into the sport.
Got it.
At certain times, and so like when you get into that mindset, it's like, gosh, like I want to be done with this, like, and also like I'm out here pushing my body to its limits, and now what am I doing this for?
For the rush. So the rush is done, and then what?
Right. Then what? Then what? Because that's dangerous. Because people think that the rush will last you a lifetime, and sure, getting certain titles will last you, but it's not going to carry you, beyond, a few.
Everything fades.
Everything fades, and
everything has an ending, good and
so
bad.
Is it fulfilling for you?
Yep.
And so it's a tough question. I mean, besides the fact that the sport is incredibly hard. There were just certain times where I felt like I wasn't getting in what I was putting. I wasn't getting out what I was putting in.
And so, what made you reverse that thought process to say, "I'm going to keep going"?
Because I had a goal, and I wanted to make the team, and I wanted to be an Olympian, and I knew that what had been poured into me, what I had learned, people who had supported me, people who told me that I can do it. I don't care people who said I can't. Like, that doesn't help me. So people who told me that I can are the reason why I kept going. And that is what, pushed me through those goals. I mean, pushed me through those like hurdles and those setbacks. Because I knew I was like, this is a goal of mine that I want to do. And I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to push through to get to that. But like there were, in that process, plenty of time. And like COVID, I was like, well, how am I one of the best, 400 hurdlers, in
the world.
In the world. And I can't get on the track.
In the world, it's okay.
I can't get on the track.
Wow.
So there's so many things that kind of can be stacked against you that can push you out.
Because COVID didn't discriminate. You could be the best track star in the world. You can be, and it did not discriminate.
Did not care.
It was very equal opportunity. Virus.
100%. Anybody can get it.
Or just a equal opportunity hysteria.
Yep.
Because everybody was experiencing that. Yep. Okay. Last fan question.
Yep.
What was it like hanging out in Tokyo?
Yeah. It was awesome.
Really?
Tokyo
was as bright and as colorful and, as we see it on the...
Yeah, I mean, it was so...
Google images?
The village was cool. So the village was... And one of the cooler things about it was you kind of realized that this wasn't like a hotel. Like this wasn't like, a community of hotels that they kind of put together for this Olympics. Like, these villages were built for the Olympics.
Much like the ones that were built here.
Right, exactly.
96.
So when you're in it, it's like... Oh, this was built for the Olympics. Like, this wasn't like, we're the first ones in here. So that was cool.
Can you imagine you saw that in 96 and did you think one day I'm going to be in this?
Right, I know. I was born in 96, so yeah.
The year you were born?
Yeah.
Gotta do the math. Holy moly.
I know.
Like in the time when they were being born? Because this is like springtime 96. Are you in springtime?
Yeah. No, sorry, I'm not. I'm fall. I'm August.
So like wow. Summer. So they had just come up.
Yeah.
And then you come into the world 100%. And here's your future.
I think the Olympics were going on.
Yeah.
When I was born.
Yes, they were. I remember the village being built in the spring
100%.
of 96.
And so, that's crazy. But
full circle. Yeah. Okay. So Tokyo was great.
Tokyo was great. So the village was cool. We were right on the water. Like my room actually can look out and see the water, and like the Coast Guard was lining the village. I mean, they lined. It was sick. The security was tight. But the way it works in there, it's like there's this massive dining hall in the middle, and there's a bunch of towers that exist around the dining hall.
Wow.
And
all outdoors? Sort of for the protection of the...
Sure, right, yeah, exactly. And so the USA team, we had our own tower, of course. But then like...
What else is new?
Right. And then but other countries had like shared towers and like, there's a ton of flags that hang out on the tower. Like, it's up to the teams to decorate their tower, and so we had like American flags hanging on our tower. It was sick, like so cool.
Wow.
And the dining hall was 24 hours, and so
wow.
Yeah, so you can go in there whenever you want, which is like good because people train at like different hours of the day, and so they had to have that. And it was 2 floors, and the way it was like concession stand style. So like one concession stand was like, what do they call our food? It was like,
you who love food,
right? Well, they have like it's like noodles, like Japanese. They called our food like because it was clearly the American section, and it was like pizza, like fries, burgers.
Oh my gosh.
It was just
all the American
stereotypical
fare.
like yeah. But I forget what they call it. It was I think it was called like grill or something like that. Is what
That
they called
makes
it.
sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But and I would say the food was like. It was more about the quantity than it was the quality. Like they had to put out a lot of food, so it wasn't the best food. But that's how it was in there, and that's kind of where you mingled people. You met other people from other countries. So dining hall was kind of the spot to be.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then Tokyo, obviously, the city it was great. Like there was, it was beautiful. We didn't get to see too much. We obviously couldn't. We were very much on lockdown. But it was awesome. I do hope to go back there one day and be able to kind of experience it from a personal standpoint.
And actually take a selfie.
Right, and take a selfie.
After it's all said and done,
I'm going
now
back
you can
for
have
the selfies.
your own selfie because
Yes.
now you are not doing the business and the work.
100%.
This has been so eye-opening for
Oh,
me and
thank
just
you.
so enlightening. I could be your young mom. Or I could just been your mom. I could have been your mom. And I just get so filled when I listen to younger people share their experiences and then talk about how they're overcoming obstacles mentally, because that's a big part of the process.
Yeah.
You can be a beautiful person, you can be athletic, you can have all these physical traits, but if you're not balanced up here, which is why we have the amazing folks at Resilient Georgia to keep pressing that message, we got to be right up here for all the rest of this to shine.
Everything.
And so you are a shining example of that.
Thank you.
We are so proud of you, native Atlantan.
Yes.
What do you feel about Atlanta, and why do you feel like Georgia and Atlanta is so resilient?
Yeah, I think Atlanta's just a beautiful place in general. I think that something that is so unique about Atlanta is we are just incredibly diverse from so many aspects. I mean, like I said, race, sexuality, social, economic, we have so many different people here, and it's very rare that you jump into a society or a community within Atlanta that does not have a voice from multiple people from different backgrounds. And so I think the fact that we have that just makes us strong. And allows us to have a holistic view on things. And I think you see that when our sports teams, our sports teams accept the culture of Atlanta. We're very much, we love the hip hop. We everything that
across the board.
You see it across the board. And so,
World's busiest
Diverse.
airport. Somebody would think it was like a Jeopardy question. Atlanta! Thank you, Emily, for having us both. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Fun. Yeah.
We're so excited to have everyone, and thank you all for joining. I know I have signed up for my first stroller 5K, which I have been nervous about for 4 weeks.
Let's go.
So
We got you.
I am going to watch the recording, which we'll send to all of you, and take your words of wisdom as I continue to get more and more butterflies.
That's right.
Yes.
He just broke the I was so daunted by the experience. I'm going, he's not, when he was he's not touchable. You've made it very human.
Oh,
Yes.
well, thank you.
We'll never ascend to that space, but at least you made me feel like more that it's human. You are a human being.
Oh, yes. Well, you guys are
And not
great.
my age, which in my mind, everybody's my age
better tell
until
it.
we say 96,
That part.
and that was when I was born.
Well,
like,
wait a minute, because I know why I was here in 96. I was in college, and you were just being born. Okay, there you go. Doing a semester at Spelman College, which
There
I
you
loved
go.
a lot. And I remember seeing those towers being built and going, wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then just your mother was walking around like this going,
Literally.
he's coming.
Literally.
And he's going to be in something like that in the next 20-something. I mean, just full circle
Could you
gives me
imagine?
chills.
Could
It gives
you
me
imagine?
chills.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Thank
Kenny.
you.
What's next? The last thing I would like to know, tell the people, what's next for you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you in training for something else that we don't know about?
No, not nothing.
What else could there be?
Right, I know. I don't know. I don't know. I know that, I've got to figure it out. And there's part of me that that doesn't feel done with the sport of track and field because it's done so much for me, and I enjoy it on so many different levels. But I do know that I'm ready to be used in
Love that.
bigger spaces. And
my biggest mentor told me that, and I live by that too.
Yeah.
I say that to this day. Use me.
Yeah, use me.
Just use me.
Because I
use me
know
on
that
up. Yeah.
because track is great, but I do know that I have qualities that track's not allowed me to express in a way.
Sure.
And so.
But
So
we're
we'll
listening
see.
to it because we can't hear you when you're running.
Right, exactly.
We don't know anything about you.
Exactly.
Well, you're on social media.
Absolutely.
Kenny_Selmon.
Yep,
So
that's
everybody
it.
know that.
Yes,
And you
give me
can
that
find
follow.
out what's next
Yes.
by just looking and seeing. But we're all
100%.
so excited to
Oh,
see
thank
what's
you.
next.
I appreciate it. It's
Yes,
awesome.
and on
Yes,
our
you're great.
general meeting webpage, we will have everything posted. You can have Kenny's information, Chrishaunda's information.
Yay.
After the meeting, I may ask you to be part of our speakers bureau.
I think that's definitely in his future.
Yes.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. And all of you, we will, again, be sending out that information for those of you that were able to join the recording, for those of you who would like to share it with others. And we thank you so much for having such a good day with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.